George and I were high school sweethearts. We got married not even a year out of school, and we had a tumultuous marriage. I prayed for 30 years for George to be saved. In those last 3 years, George was diagnosed with cancer. When your loved one looks at you and says, do I want to die from the blood clot that's in my heart, or do I want to die from the cancer? How do you answer that question? Either way, where are you going? Whose arms are you going to run into when the time comes? And that's when we started having gospel conversations about, are you saved? Do you know Jesus? And he was able to reiterate the gospel to me to let me know he does know Jesus. And in those last 3 years of George's life, he was new. He had asked me to take him back to his hometown. He wanted to see his parents. He wanted to say goodbye. And was going to drive 3 days there, spend a few weeks with his parents, and drive 3 days back. And I didn't know at the time that in those 6 days of captivity, what God was going to do. We talked about almost every aspect of our life, and I watched God just heal hurts and brokenness. On the way home, the sun was setting, and it was such a beautiful picture. It looked like something out of a movie, and I felt like time for a moment stood still, and I looked over at George, and he was asleep, and the Holy Spirit just quickened in me that this was the beginning of the end. That was in August, and George passed away at the end of October. There seems to be a line of delineation when you're married and then your husband dies and you're a widow, and everything kind of changes. And at that moment, I remember crying out to the Lord saying, who's going to take care of me? And what am I going to do now? And in his mercy, I remember the Lord saying to me, I will. I'm going to take care of you. But the question was never answered, what am I going to do now? And I was like, kind of waiting. What am I going to do now? During this 10 years that George has been gone, I went from being a Christian to being a follower of Christ. And I think one of the biggest changes that came into my life was coming to Church Project. But I was really quite arrogant about it. I didn't like the lighting. I complained. Called my daughter-in-law and said, there's a great church. I think it's going to be wonderful for you. And Missy said, Mom, who took off Lazarus's death shroud? And I thought, okay, I know I finished my coffee. I've read this 1,000 times. I can answer this question. I'm like, okay, I don't know Jesus. If I've read it once, I've read it 1,000 times. She was like, no, Jesus did not take his death shroud off. He turned to the community, and that's what you need. You need community to take your death shroud off. And that's when I began going to house church regularly. I have watched God do miraculous things in not just my life, but in people around me, in my family, in my house church, in people that I love, and in people that I don't even know. So he's pretty amazing God I serve.